for I guess a divorce and trying to get the upper hand, she filed a domestic violence report, which was false. And I have all recordings of her threatening us and threatening the kids, putting them in jail if they didn't do what she said or if they didn't leave with her. And I told after the restraining order, CPS got involved.
Let's talk to Roger from California. Roger, did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
A little bit of both.
Go ahead.
Well, my wife, exactly what the therapist was talking about, that's exactly what's going on with me. She's been, preparing for I guess, a divorce and trying to get the upper hand. She filed a domestic violence report, which was false. And I have all recordings of her threatening us and, threatening the kids, putting them in jail if they didn't do what she said or if they didn't leave with her. And I told after the restraining order, CPS got involved, and the social worker that was assigned, I told her I had all this evidence, but she recommended me not to turn in this evidence because they would take the kids away. They wouldn't put them in my custody since she had custody because of the restraining order, that the kids would be taken away. So I didn't turn in, no evidence against my wife. And after the first hearing, basically, they called me from a abusive father to, sending me to go get drug tested every week. I mean, basically everything that my wife told them, that's what is, the truth. To them, that was the truth. So I wasn't able to present anything because my attorney also, the court-appointed attorney, just basically didn't say anything on my behalf.
When is your next court hearing?
It's, I believe, June 26th, I believe, something like that. But I wanted to try to get an appeal because it's really hard that, just because my wife, everything that my wife said, which everything is a lie, and I have recordings of her saying that she would lie in the court because of all these threats. I started recording her.
Well, have you had a trial yet?
No trial. They told me that this was going to be something like an arraignment, like it was just to see, so we could plead not guilty or stuff like that and denial. But it kind of seems like this first court date, it was just all against me. The judge was saying that I was unstable, that I couldn't see my kids. They're giving me like 4 hours a week, supervised visits at a children's facility, a children's court facility. So basically, I am the bad guy. I am the one that can't see my kids, can't talk to them. And all this because the social worker told me not to turn into her any of my evidence, my wife's. And the reason that I did it because I didn't want my kids to be taken away and going through the system.
Okay, well, you have an
she wanted.
Hold on.
She wanted to. I'm sorry,
Roger. Hold on. You have an attorney, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
I have the court appointed.
Okay, well, that's still an attorney. You need to sit down with your attorney, either face-to-face, on the phone, Zoom, email, something, and communicate these concerns to your attorney. I mean, you're telling me about the case now, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on, and I'm not intimately familiar, to advise you, but this is an issue you're going to have to talk to your attorney.
Well, I did talk to the attorney right after the that preliminary trial or whatever it was. And what she told me is she just basically telling me to go do all these programs, go get drug tested every week, and then we'll argue on the next trial. Now these programs that they're offering.
Hold on. Roger.
Sounds like detention.
Elizabeth, do you have any advice or recommendations you can give this young man?
Well, I think the issue is when the social worker shared what she thought was right, which was not to turn anything in because you wouldn't get the kids and then they would take them away and nobody would have them. Well, the point is they already did take them from you at least. And Vince is right. You have an attorney. You contact them and you let them know that you have a lot of information that you want them to see, that you want them to review. Because you're going to get another interview by a separate worker. And they are supposed to follow up on all the information that is presented to them. You have the opportunity to, counter what they're saying if you have proof of what you're trying to say. It's a good idea to have a timeline too, I think, when you show that to your attorney, because sometimes you're trying, especially that you're trying to say that it's a setup of time, like your wife started putting this into place and you have texts or things that, probably go in a sequential kind of an order. So yeah, if I were you, I would get the information that I have. I would try to make a little timeline and I would ask for my attorney to give me some time so I could sit down with them and explain my side and make sure that you have copies of everything that you want people to see and make sure you have that available for your second interview, because the dependency investigator should look through that and try to verify what you're saying.
Brian, as a therapist, do you have any recommendations for the young man?
Well, I would say, you mentioned that you've gone through some programs. Have you actually seen a therapist at all?
No, I went through my provider, and just to be able to show the court that they're going to do a mental evaluation, and I'm going to talk to a therapist.
Yeah, because what I would recommend is when you are speaking with a therapist, one of the things that they can do for you is they can write a letter on your behalf, basically saying like, these are the issues that we've covered in therapy. This is the progress that we've experienced. And if if they're able to talk with other members of your family and get a sense of like what your situation is, they can include those in a report, basically talking about what your situation is. Obviously, if they're going to be talking to other family members, they will need an authorization to release information because they are protected by HIPAA. But that's one way that you can at least start to kind of gain some ground and demonstrate that you are doing what is necessary to try and, meet the court's needs.
No, but what I worry about is because my wife has been basically planning this. She's put, things in my family's heads, and especially, and I've been repeating this over and over with the social worker and my attorney, is the parental alienation that's going on with my kids.
Right.
They wanted to stay with me at home. They wanted to live with me at home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what scared my wife is that because she called police to the house, and the kids told the police that they wanted to stay with me, that they were, they wanted to live with me.
Okay.
And that's when she did the restraining order.
Okay.
And then ever since then, I haven't been able to even see my kids, talk to my kids, and I know now the oldest is against me, and it's a lot of parental alienation, which is her just manipulating them to go against me, whoever talks to them. So, my family basically is in agreement because, they don't listen to her, they listen to the kids, but the kids are right next to her. They'll tell my family that, they don't want to be with me or they don't want to talk to me, and which
right.
and that's her manipulating them.
Yeah, that's a very common thing that, that abusers will do, is they will manipulate the children against the other partner. And I think about the only thing that I can recommend in that situation is just doing what you can to use the court system to encourage them to get therapy as part of that process, because you can request that they be enrolled in therapy so that they can deal with some of those issues and they can start to separate themselves from mom and start to understand what's happening within those dynamics. One of the things that I've done with my clients is I use a game called it's called Werewolf, and it's basically showing them that they using different cards. It's kind of a card game, but basically they use different resources within the game in order to kind of understand what what villagers in this game are innocents and which ones are werewolves that they need to be watching out for. But it's a way of kind of talking to them about the fact that, like, look, you have your own resources, you have your own intuitions, you have your own support network that you can use to start to get a sense of what's really going on, like who's really telling the truth, what, and starting to be able to understand for themselves what they need to get out of that situation. So,
hey, Roger,
Well,
I want to thank you for calling and thank you for listening. Call us back in about 2 or 3 weeks and give us an update, okay? We have to take a break now. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. Give us a call, 800-222-5222. We'll be back after these messages.